The tribe has been
Zoom. Stop recording video button.
Close to a decade on improving the conditions of the river. I'll go into it a little more detail, but past land
Viewfinder. Focus unlocked. Image. Speech off.
Caused practices have led to the degradation of river conditions, leading to poor suitability for salmon and steelhead specifically, in the habitat that they need to rear, grow nice and strong, swim all the way out to the ocean, and then back up here to spawn. So I'll kind of give a little bit overview of the tribe itself, and then go into more details on the work that we do out here. From what I've been told, you've been out and about last week, visiting other surrounding areas. You met with our friends over at the Nez Perce tribe last week. They probably gave you an overview of their fisheries work. And so basically my role today is just to kind of expand on that and give a separate but similar perspective with the Confederated Tribes of the Umatella Reservation. Prior to European American contact in the early 1800s, members of the Umatilla tribe, Cayuse and Walla Walla, were about 8,000 members and lived in this greater Columbia River Plateau basin. The Columbia River, for those who aren't familiar, is kind of the dividing line between Oregon and Washington and most of the border. And it drains out of Canada and flows through Washington and drains many of the tributaries in Northeast Oregon. I've got a couple maps here that I can pass around to give you a little more context of where we're at. So this one up top here kind of gives you an idea of the historic tribal use in Northeast Oregon and Southeast Washington. The darker areas are the more concentrated use areas, and the lighter less use.
I'm just looking at
pass this around.
In Oregon, it's like a darker, what
The
you were
map
saying.
below
There's
it
like
gives a
it's
little more zoomed in area on
in Oregon.
the current
I'm just gonna look at the map later.
reservation
Explain it.
and the surrounding historical use lands. So up until like 1900s, the ancestors of the Confederated Tribes would travel in a yearly cycle from hunting camps to fishing spots to trading camps and ceremonial areas. The tribe spent most of their time in the area of what's now called Northeast Oregon and Southeast Washington, subsisting on salmon, roots, berries, deer, and elk. In 1855, the tribes negotiated with the U.S. government a treaty in which 6.5 or so million acres were ceded or given up to the U.S. government in exchange for a reservation, which is roughly 250,000 acres. And that's the dark green on that map that I'm passing around here. So, kind of zoomed out and then zoomed in reservation and then the ceded area that they gave up. So as part of this treaty, the tribes also reserve perpetual off-reservation rights to fish at their usual and accustomed areas historically, and hunting and gathering. And they continue to exercise their rights throughout the traditional use area, which extends all the way to over out of Portland, where they harvest fish at Willamette Falls, and then as far east as Yellowstone for bison hunt. Their traditional religion, called Washat, or seven drums, is still practiced by some tribal members, and they perform dances, drum, sing, and continue to hunt and gather food. And as part of this historic traditions comes the importance of restoring bountiful salmon and steelhead and other resident fish and natural resources, and that it's key to their culture. Our natural resources and fisheries program approach to the restoration work that we do is guided by this concept of reciprocity, and acknowledges a moral and practical obligation that humans and the natural world have to care for one another. This belief arises from the human gratitude and reverences for the contributions these resources make to sustain human life. The most plentiful foods that the tribes relied on were salmon, roots, berries, deer, and elk. And each of these foods could be found in different places, and each was available during different seasons. This meant that the people had to move from place to place throughout the year, depending on the availability of those food sources at that time. They followed the same course from year to year in a large circle from the lowlands of the Columbia River to the highlands of the Blue Mountains. In the spring, the tribes would gather along the Columbia River in places like Celilo Falls to fish for salmon, trade for goods with other tribes. There they would dry the salmon so that they could use it later on in the season. Later in the spring and early summer, they'd travel from the Columbia River up into the foothills of the Blue Mountains to dig for roots, which they would also dry. And then later summer, they would move even higher up into the mountains to pick berries and hunt big game, deer and elk. And then over winter, they would move back down to the lowlands, milder temperatures, and start the whole cycle again the next year. So, unlike similar natural resource managers around here, we have Forest Service, we have the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, and other nonprofits who work to improve natural resources such as salmon and steelhead habitat. The tribe is unique in the fact that they've adopted this mission based on these first foods historically hunted and gathered. And this framework for their natural resource management seeks to reflect the unique tribal values associated with the natural resources and to emphasize these ecological processes that are sometimes undervalued by westernized Euro-American perspectives. And these first foods are considered the minimum requirements to sustain the tribe with nourishment, but also used as, like I said, the framework to reflect tribal values and their cultural heritage connected to the natural resources. So within the tribe's Department of Natural Resources are programs that focus their management practices on one or more of these first food groups. The one I work with focuses mostly on salmon and the fresh water that they live in. So the official titles of the first foods go water, salmon, steelhead, and other freshwater fish species. Berries, roots, deer, and elk. But under those broad categories are lots of other animals and roots and berries that they've collected also. Huckleberry is one that the season is maybe just winding down now, but that's one that you would find this time of year up in the Blue Mountains. And each fish habitat department is divided by the basin. And so in Oregon, we have the Grand Ronde here. Over the hill, closer to the reservation, is the Umatella River Basin. And then south of there is the North Fork John Day. In southeast Washington, we have the Walla Walla River Basin and the Toucannon. And those are all individual fish habitat restoration programs. So from this first foods framework comes this idea or a vision that the tribes call the river vision. And it was kind of born out of this need to develop a path toward achieving a healthy and functioning river. And it provides a framework and direction for planning and the management of river and floodplain restoration projects that we do. The river vision itself reads, "This basin includes a healthy river capable of providing first foods that sustain the continuity of the tribe's culture. This vision requires a river that is dynamic and shaped not only by physical and biological processes, but the interconnections between these processes." So you can kind of break the river vision down into several touchstones or key elements. The first I'll talk a little bit about hydrology. It's the amount of water and the timing of water movement. So where does our water come from? How much of it and when? When are flows the highest? When are they the lowest? Where we live and work in this area, our flow regimes are dominated mostly by snowmelt processes. You get a bunch of snow pile up in the winter. In the spring, it warms up and rains. You can see our rivers increase. As opposed to maybe on the west side of Oregon, it's a lot more rain-dominated river systems. They don't get as much snow. So these are important ideas to think about when we plan ahead into the future projects that need to stay resilient in the faces of a changing climate, how that might affect the timing of runoff. With a warming climate, we see increase in floods, more intense runoff all at once and earlier in the season. So these are things to consider when we plan work. And the next touchstone, connectivity. How connected is the river to its non-river parts? Talk about the floodplain, and that's the area outside of the actual river channel that is connected to the river at flood stages. Does the river occasionally spill over into this floodplain? Or is it locked into the channel with no real room to escape? How permeable is the riverbed? Can water go underground and trickle out somewhere else? How does this river transition from the steeper headwaters to the lower gradient valley reach? Are there barriers in place that don't allow fish to swim up or sediment to naturally flush down? And just how have past landscape alterations affected the connectivity? Railroad grades, very popular historically to build railroad grades and roads in river valleys where it's flat. How do those affect the river from exploring its floodplain? Geomorphology is basically, what is the river channel like? Is it made up of big coarse boulders or really fine sand and silt? Does it meander and braid the side channels, or is it straightened and pushed over to one side of the valley? Are there complex structures like wood jams and boulder clusters, or is it fairly empty of those? These are just sort of ideas to think about when we go and take a walk over to actually go be by the river. The next would be riparian vegetation. Basically the plants and the trees that live within the river corridor. Are there any? And if so, what kinds, and are they native or introduced? How do these riparian vegetation communities contribute to overall river function? Bank stability. If old cottonwood grows up and dies, falls in, adds more complex structure to the river. And then finally, the aquatic animals that actually live in the river. Such as salmon and steelhead, and are they present? And are they present at the numbers that the tribe would like to see for a sustainable, harvestable level? So I touched a little bit on the historic human-caused actions that have degraded the habitat needed for the salmon and the steelhead to spawn in. I guess before I go, if you're not familiar, salmon and steelhead are both fish that are born here up in closer to the headwaters, spend a year or so getting, fit enough to make their journey all the way down to the Columbia River and then out to the ocean, where they spend another few years swimming around the Gulf of Alaska, Pacific Ocean, eating seafood and getting nice and big, and then making their way all the way back up the river to here to spawn, lay their eggs, and start that whole cycle over again. And some years back, the Endangered Species Act was enacted and designated the Chinook and salmon and steelhead as endangered or threatened, which is partly why we do the work that we do to increase their numbers. So this river specifically, Catherine Creek, was identified as having a high intrinsic potential for restoring river and floodplain processes and functions. And it resulted in the prioritization of individual reaches along Catherine Creek to target these habitat uplift projects. So as part of this prioritization, about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, the tribe acquired this ranch. It's about 500 acres, most of it upland, but a very valuable mile length of Catherine Creek flows through it. And considered a conservation property, we do hay and graze the further out pastures, but we have a nice wide buffer of, as you maybe noticed driving in, it's been freshly hayed this year, very low grass out in the pastures. But then as you cross the bridge, you see it kind of wilds. The grasses are as tall as we are, and as we get closer to the river, you'll start maybe noticing different species of water-living plants arise.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have animals that graze, or do you sell the hay, or what do you do with it?
As part of maintaining some money to fund the upkeep of the property, we do sell the grazing and haying rights of the pasture area, as well as rent out the farmhouse.
Nice.
So this is just one property in a series of about 4 miles of Catherine Creek through this valley here, where the tribe has approached several landowners and have done some projects of varying scale on their property. At the very least, we've put up riparian fencing so that they can maintain their cattle operations, grazing, and as well as protect the that riparian buffer for the benefit of salmon steelhead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So at the Nest First Homeland Project, they reintroduced like camas and the cotton trees, and I was wondering, did you do that here as well with the Catherine?
Yeah, camas, not so much right here. There's a naturally growing kind of wet area out in the pasture. I think it just drains from the other side of the highway and percolates up into sort of a wet spring. And we've seen naturally growing camas growing there. That's one of the tribe's first foods. They dig up the roots in the spring. And then we'll go for a little walk here. This will give you a little bit more perspective on the revegetation efforts. So this was a fairly heavy-handed approach to restoring the river. Historically, the river would have, this whole valley would have had a series of beaver dams, multi-braided channels. There might not have even been one main channel. As you can kind of see, the top frame here shows a 1937 aerial photo taken of this property, which shows multiple kind of braided channels throughout a really extensive cottonwood gallery, which some of it still remains a little bit downstream there. But then, to make room for agriculture, to dry things up, the river was pushed all the way to the side of the hill in a straight line. Basically picture a fire hose of moving water through. So this is sort of the concept design of what we wanted to reintroduce: meanders, side channels, alcoves, and then this is a kind of an aerial view of what it looks like currently. Let's see, I think it's on the other side of the other handout. Shows 3 panels of stages of, yeah, let's see that one. Up top here, not very pretty. It's very much dirt. I mean, this was during or right after construction of this new channel form. And we took a pretty heavy-handed approach to kick the river back out. We were able to do that because the tribe bought the property and there really isn't any infrastructure in the way. So we wanted to take advantage of all this acreage out here to move water through. But yeah, the downside is that you basically nuke all existing vegetation. But this was just a couple years after the project. And you see a lot of grasses and some little willow clusters coming back. We put thousands of cottonwoods, alders, dogwoods, willows, hawthorn, chokecherry, native grasses, sedges. And this was a drone image captured this year in the spring, and you can tell that the revegetation effort is, at least I believe, very successful. I can pass this back around and take a look at those.
Okay.
So as we take a little wander over to the river, keep in mind that everything basically behind the barn was bare soil in 2016 after the project. So any plant and willow and cottonwood tree was something that we planted not that long ago and has really rebounded. And part of that is because we have put a lot of more water out on the floodplain for longer periods of time than what it used to, being trapped in its single-threaded channel pushed against the bank of the mountain. More water spread out means more water seeping in, which raises the water table, which is what those willows and cottonwoods and riparian plants need to tap their roots into in order to grow. So, is everyone ready for just a little wander?
I know where we're going.
Oh, I was going to talk about, there's, our primary focus is enhancing habitat for salmon and steelhead, but in doing that, we inadvertently and purposefully help other species as well. And so, give you a little idea about other animals that use this property. Almost every year, I think, since the tribe acquired the property, there's been a nesting pair of bald eagles that live down in the taller cottonwoods down in there. You used to be able to see their nest. That tree blew over. They rebuilt their nest on a different tree close by. But last I saw earlier this summer, there were 2 juvenile eagles that survived. We also have had beaver. North American beaver are a large rodent that were keystone species to the American West, but also having a very highly coveted fur coat. They were extensively trapped out to almost extinction. The beaver were in charge of what I was talking about, is damming up water, spreading water out, kind of what we're trying to do, but a lot more cost effective. They
A lot
say
more
beaver
natural.
taught salmon how to jump, and I believe it. When you go to reference reaches of rivers that haven't been as heavy-handedly disturbed, you'll see healthy beaver populations. You'll see a lot of chaotic water moving all over the floodplain, being dammed up and pooled up, and that's what fish evolved to deal with. And they like that slow water habitat during spring flows when everything is moving a lot of water through. They have little fish have places to hide out from the high velocities, and also creating deep pools with a lot of cool water to escape the high summer heats. Yes, question?
Where do you get your funding?
We are funded through Bonneville Power Administration. We're a federally operated hydropower system on the Columbia River. If you drive from here to Portland, or if you have traveled from Portland to start school here at Eastern, you've driven along the Columbia River and noticed a series of dams along that big river. And as part of an accord or an agreement with the tribes, the power system provides funding to mitigate or offset some of the harm caused by having dams in the Columbia to the fish moving up and down. Any other questions while we're all gathered here before we go take a little walk? Yeah.
How long do you expect to work on this project, or is it more ongoing?
Well, as part of a project, there's watching the big yellow machines actually put it in, and then in order to keep tabs on whether it's performing the way that we intended, we have an ongoing monitoring program that comes out annually and takes different readings on metrics such as water temperature. We'll take photo points to observe the riparian rebound, and we'll do spawning surveys counting how many nests or live fish we see. And actually right now is the middle of Chinook spawning season, so it's possible we may see a live fish. If not, maybe you'll notice some rocks have been scoured out and dug out to make their nest. We'll put on our dry suits occasionally and snorkel around in some of the log jams and try to enumerate fish that way, to just keep tabs on fish populations. Are they increasing? Are we seeing the results that we anticipated? Did that answer?
Yeah.
But sort of, if we're seeing issues, things we could probably do better, then as part of our adaptive management plan, we kind of reassess what we did, what didn't work, what can we do moving forward. So there is always the option of, say, we want to add a little bit more wood here. So it's kind of a ongoing process. Yeah.
What's in the barn?
What's in it?
Yeah.
Mostly we just store ATVs and larger equipment that won't fit in our office in town. It's, and a lot of mouse poo. Yeah.
In your surveys, have you noticed or been able to detect any significant change in terms of, say, new fish arriving since the riparian work?
We have. Like I said, the river before we tried to help it was just that straight fire hose, really coarse rock, the only rock that could really withstand those high flows that come rocketing through here in that single threaded channel form. Not great for spawning. So as part of our plan was to slow the river down, meander it. Smaller gravels will settle out in slower water, and that's perfect for spawning steelhead and Chinook. And we have counted many more, we call it reds. They're the salmon and steelhead nests that they dig. Our red counts have increased dramatically on this stretch of river. They were almost non-existent before. There just really wasn't any good slow water, smaller cobble size substrate to spawn in. And then an increased number in the juvenile fish that stick around here and rear in these large deep pools. big increase in fish utilization on this mile reach of river.
So it seems to suggest that this type of work can have some really immediate impact and effect on the state.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's kind of isolated, and hopefully it helps in the long run. But then you have to factor in. I mean, this is only one area of this fish's life cycle, which encompasses hundreds of miles all the way out to the ocean, dealing with predation on the way down, sea lions, ocean conditions, water temperatures, the hydro systems they have to pass through. There's a long list of the gauntlet that they have to make it through, and we can only really do so much here in this one little area, but we're hoping to at least give them a leg up on their out migration journey. Speaking of beaver, if we want to, you can follow me, we'll take a little walk over. There's a I don't know how active it is this season, but a pretty substantial beaver dam that they keyed in on a little side channel, dammed it up, and created a nice deep pool. It's kind of since trickled through and dropped this summer low water.
Still staying in
But they create these dams in late summer, early fall in preparation for winter habitat and food storage. So they'll take a bunch of their little riparian wood cuttings and stash them down, stick them in the bed in the deepest part of their pool so that it doesn't freeze solid over the winter down that deep. They could swim under the ice, grab those like their pantry over the winter, and also to escape predation. They move a lot more efficiently in water than they do waddling around on land, so they want as much water spread out as possible in order to navigate to their food sources and to escape predation.
What eats beavers?
Oh, there are coyotes, mountain lions, probably a bear would if it had the opportunity. Any kind of predator that would attack a squirrel, I guess, would go for a beaver. I'm not sure about the eagles. I think they're more keyed in on fish and ground squirrels, which reminds me, the State Fish and Wildlife wanted to conduct a study on reintroducing mass amounts of salmon carcasses to the river. With the salmon numbers currently, they're just not, up to like Alaska standards where you would just see litter of salmon all down the banks. So after they spawn and they die, their nutrient input into the food web is not quite at historic levels at all. So they were thinking, well, that was probably really beneficial to the whole food web to introduce decaying salmon carcasses. And so they got from the Nez Perce tribe over Wallowa County that you visited, they had a big surplus of extra fish that they didn't know what to do with and were just going to be tossed out. And so we, a few weeks ago, took them and dumped them into pools in the lower half of this project in order to then assess if the juvenile fish benefit from that and increased size and fitness before their long journey back out to the ocean. But that inadvertently brought down the bears that could easily smell a bunch of rotting salmon carcasses. We're hoping that more carcasses than fewer survived the bear, but we have noticed down in the Cottonwood Gallery down there a lot of sign that the bear have been actively coming down onto this property and scooping out some of the carcasses that we added to the river. Deer and elk are often seen out here or up on the hill. It was a little bit tough to get the riparian plants up and healthy enough to withstand that browse pressure by wild ungulates, deer and elk, but we spent a lot of time out here with cages, and we even tried this approach of, it's like a dehydrated blood that slaughterhouses have on hand. Dehydrate slaughterhouse blood and then reconstitute it and spray it onto plants apparently makes them really appealing to vegetarian animals. We don't really know if it had that great of effect. It was kind of a nasty process of coating all the plants with blood, but it is an approach that folks with orchards and things will use to discourage browse. But yeah.
How about lamprey at the Mantises?
Yeah, lamprey, also considered one of the tribe's first foods, was not too long ago reintroduced to most all the tributaries in the Grand Ronde, and we have noticed an increased use of adult lamprey coming up and spawning on this property. And then when we, before we get to digging on a new project, we have to make sure we're not harming the fish that are already there. And so we salvage the fish out of the way and put them into an area that's not going to be affected. And in that process, we always turn up little juvenile lamprey that kind of look like earthworms at that life stage. When they are adults, they're more like a kind of a snake or eel looking thing with a suction mouthpiece. I've never been kissed by one, but it's kind of like a hickey. They latch on. They use their mouth to navigate boulders and obstacles in the river, to move rocks around to create their nest. Times of the year you'll see them latching onto the dam and making their way up and over dams. Dams are now created with a round surface, so they don't have to try and suction onto a 90-degree angle. That doesn't quite give good coverage. But yeah. All right. I will mention one animal that has sometimes been seen out here is rattlesnakes. Most likely they hang out up on the hillside, not where we'll be, but it is good to keep that in mind. If they are doing what they should, they'll make a rattle noise. We've been out here pretty regularly throughout this summer season when you would expect to see them, and have not encountered a rattlesnake this year yet. But just as a safety precaution, yes. Then don't approach it any closer than you already are, and let everyone know, and we'll move away from that area. All right. So yeah, let's go walk over and take a peek at the Beaver Dam. If no one's ever seen a beaver dam, it's kind of cool.
Okay, so we're gonna go to the left.
Now I'm nervous.
About the snake?
Yes.
Well, I think it will be. Hopefully, we don't see one. I don't know where we're going. Like, where are we going?
I think I have about 13 now.
Okay, it's a very short walk. If you'd all just follow me through this kind of taller grass.
Yeah, so it's taller grass.
And of course, just watch your footing.
I should have bought jeans instead of wearing shorts.
Yeah. Ah! You good?
As long as I don't get ticks on me.
Oh, you should be good. There's more taller grass, and that's just going to be bumpy because of the grass.
Okay.
And then we're getting into tall grass, like as tall as us. So if that's your face.
Okay.
Ow.
What? My
You're
face?
doing okay? I know. I'm trying to block it, but it's not working. Are you good? Because we're almost through like the super tall grass.
Oh. Oh, they kill us. Oh.
Are you good? I'm trying to help. Ah!
This is so dangerous.
We're almost done.
Okay.
Well, through the tall grass. So we're just walking through this field to the dam. Okay, so we're back to the shorter tall grass.
Okay.
But it's still gonna be bumpy. let me know if I can help you any different. Okay, so we're gonna little taller grass, but not too much.
She's like, I need to make reservations, I need to make plans. Like, which is true. You gotta like figure out work. You gotta figure out where you're gonna stay. Yeah. So like, so my mom was smart. She was like, should I try to look at the
What's up, Miguel? Hello. So we're walking through this very heavy grass.
Yeah, it's not the tall stuff anymore, but it's still. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not everybody's gonna be able to.
Okay.
Should we just say extend here?
Yeah. And then we're just looking like you can. The creek is in front of us, but you can't see through the bushes. I know, mine too. Mine too.
You know, the last time I went running through a hayfield, you had it during like hot dogs.
Okay. So we're walking more, but there's kind of a line, so we can just wait.
Should we just stay here?
If you want to, we definitely can.
Okay.
Yeah, we can stay here.
On the other side.
Yeah.
I would say, did you want to stay here? Did you want to?
Yeah, I don't want to go through this.
All the way down through there. Okay.
Yeah, because it's just going through like bushes and.
I wore long socks and now they're just
Full of spurs.
yeah.
Yeah. One nice thing about having 40 people in front of you is they're stomping it all down and doing a path.
Yeah, because it's almost like the cheat.
What?
Yeah.
What's the thing that called like when you see like a lot of spots and you get like chills?
Oh, yeah? Are you feeling okay? You want to sit down?
No, just give me no like hi. Kapito mo sa akin. Like so kapag like many spots on the color and then I want you have chills. Allergy reaction? Like no like not allergy reaction.
Are you doing, Miguel?
I'm okay.
Kasi muna sa'yo ka, like, punta ka lang dito ka, the trypophobia thing. Oh, yeah.
How's it going, you guys?
What is it?
I think we're gonna stay here.
What's
Okay.
Because the walk is kind of
Yeah.
a phobia.
Trypophobia.
Oh.
Talking about like the spurs or
Miguel, are you recording?
yes?
Hi, So you still watch it later?
Yes. SP's already famous.
No.
Were you told about SP?
Uh-uh.
SP was a dog we found in the campsite with Mika.
Oh, out in Cove?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a resident dog at the campsite, or was
Yeah.
it like
She had a
somebody
she had a she had an owner, but she wanted to get in the truck with us. She wanted to come with us. I would have taken her.
Yeah. Do you know what kind of dog she was? Mutt or?
Taller than all of us, but maybe
I'm not sure.
Take a picture of that.
What is that?
Can you guys do that again?
What is what?
It's a long piece of grass that's
Oh.
taller than.
Oh.
I'm not sure who that is.
Chantel, come in the
Neat.
photo.
Alright, ready?
Yeah, they're comparing the height of the piece of grass to him.
But yeah,
And now everyone's taking turns going in the camp.
Is it facing the right direction?
Do you want like the picture of them?
Yeah.
Turn it a little way.
At the end of this, we gotta.
Okay.
Yeah.
All my hours. The cause of everyone's allergies. The cause of my allergies is those
Cottonwood.
trees.
Was the beaver out?
Yeah.
wants to make their way back in there just to see the Beaver Dam. If not, we can kind of wander back
A total of like 5 people.
up the side.
I'm gonna go check it out once, real quick. Once
It's pretty
people
rad.
move out of there.
It was amazing.
Are you sarcastic?
Always. Whoever's doing being sarcastic. But like, you guys go down and see it's so
But you can appreciate how it's cool for others.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do that. I don't
You
even
think? You
I
think?
don't
Oh,
think she can do
I
that.
thought I was gonna be blown away by your empathy.
My property. We
No,
have
yesterday she was super optimistic. Today she's aggressive. So
Oh snap!
who
You better
knows
watch
what
out.
tomorrow's gonna be like?
find the like ground squirrel paths under the grass. I thought I saw one over there. I'm looking for
You see us over here? I'll catch a grasshopper and give it. No, I grasshoppers. You got kicked out. Why don't you come join us? We were in the cool zone. There's a cottonwood tree on my grandpa's property. Horrible.
I regret not wearing jeans today.
I know. Well, I wore
Like early
slip-on
it's
shoes
like spring.
Oh,
so they
no.
don't early summer
like they
jeans.
cover my foot, but my
And I'm
ankle
just-
and
Yeah.
socks
Me
are
and my
still
dad.
showing 'cause
Yeah.
I'm wearing like long jeans.
Face
Yeah.
is all
Yeah.
swollen, can't breathe, eyes
What's up, Robert?
How are you doing?
Hi, Robert.
Hello. You guys enjoying this?
Yeah, I'm about to go take a peek at the Beaver Dam.
Yeah. I mean, you want to see it?
What's that?
You want to see it? I open up my phone.
Sure. I'll walk over there too, but yeah, let me see what you got. Okay, alright. Can you yeah, okay. How you doing today?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Nothing to complain about.
Good. That's me too. Give me a little time to think about it. I don't have all sorts of stuff to think about, but right now I'm good.
at the moment. Good.
But being out here keeps me from thinking about all the stuff I gotta get done.
Well, now you're thinking about it.
Not be in the tall grass anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's reaching my nose.
Yeah, the tall grass is kind of.
I was told that I
Where-
stopped being. I was told that I need to stop being a perfectionist.
Where?
Yeah, I am
I'll
definitely a
go back.
perfectionist.
Tomorrow I work 10 p.m. or 6 a.m.
Uh oh.
Somebody fell in.
Someone fell in.
Somebody's renovating the Beaver
We
Dam.
can't see him, but we'll find out, I'm sure.
The Wednesday after we're
That sounded like that hurt.
welcome, I work
Yeah,
at
that
double.
definitely
So I work
sounded-
10 to 4 on the bar at Taffet, and then I work 4 to 9.
I was like, wait, is there animals who
I'm
run
not
away?
really-
I know, we're a little bit far away from them, but
Yeah,
This sucks.
that is not gonna be fun.
Well, I have did.
You fell in the street. Are you okay?
Oh, I'm fine.
her shoe is a little wet.
I need to get that.
It was actually really cool. Yeah.
Refreshing. Did it go over into your socks and stuff? Or?
Now we're good.
Okay, you got the right footwear on.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
I
Good
hunt and
stuff.
fish. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It was funny when I was going to, I just went down to see it. Because I don't really care if I fall in or not.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, she's just going for it. That was actually really refreshing.
Just look.
What's that?
I didn't want to go over there.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm gonna go take just a quick peek at it, real quick. Like, are you whatever the next site is that we go to? Are you gonna go to it, or are you guys gonna?
I don't know where it's at.
Okay. We'll see. I guess we'll see where it's at and see how.
Because if
how
it's
you're
through the
feeling
long
about it.
grass, it's up to you, Miguel.
Okay.
But it might be, I mean, I imagine it'll probably be through the same tall
I'll be right
grass.
back.
Okay.
But we'll see where we're headed and then.
There's no paths. So that's kind of a little hard too.
Yeah, it's
Maneuver
just
that.
like stomped down tall grass.
As everyone's showing up on this.
Yeah.
As they're walking by.
Yeah,
Oh, is there? Okay.
But I'm assuming the Catherine Creek
Yeah.
is just at the bottom. And he said, because when he was showing when he was describing how it lived through the years,
Yeah.
he said it started out like straight like a fire hose, and then they try to like make it more like slow it down and make it more livable for the fish.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that will be the next stop. I don't know. But it's just a bunch of trees. Yeah, some pieces of grass are taller than we are.
Wow.
Like that path that we went through that is hitting our faces.
Yeah.
Yes.
The plan is to kind of just wander along this green belt of willows until we connect back up to the main channel. We go check that out.
So when you say we're just gonna wander through
Wow, that's
tall
fickle.
grass,
Yeah.
would you like to
Don't
keep
worry,
going,
that
or do
hurt.
you want to go
I
back
know, I
to? Because it's in the same exact grass.
Same exact grass.
Like a path. What'd you
Whoa, bro.
say? I didn't hear you.
Yo, you should put that in your mouth.
It's up to you.
You see where we're going next?
Because it just sounded like just doing the same.
Okay.
So, I don't know. 'Cause it's just
I regret wearing this now.
The shorts?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least you started with your socks pulled up. I had mine pushed down and yep.
Did you want to?
All right. Would you like me to be on the other side, Miguel?
Sure.
Okay. What's easiest for you? Do you want me to hold onto your arm, or do you just want to grab me when you need
Or
it?
if you want, we could give Ryan your phone.
Yeah,
That would be easier to hold.
Here,
I was a pack mule in a former life. What am I doing with this phone?
You can just point it towards everyone where they're going.
It's on? It's turned on?
Yep, I think it's your phone. Okay.
I got it upside down, so have fun with that. Is that even possible? Watch out, there's a little breakfast snack there.
You want to take a big step?
Big step.
Yeah, we're going. What Ryan calls a breakfast
It's
snack.
this
A little bit of deer poop or
Yeah.
something.
You're good.
You got
You're
it.
good.
Yeah. That's called poetic license. Oh, I am not the world's best videographer. I just realized I have my hand in front of it.
What plant do you think this is?
Oh yes, that's a native coaxial grapevine. I don't know. Heard there might be thunderstorms today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at least in the Grand area. I don't know if this is a separate.
Welcome to rain if there's rain associated.
Right, yeah.
Necessarily the threats that might.
Yes.
And you can also organize them, like, so. But you can organize them.
So, am I correct in remembering that all of this vegetation has grown up only like in the last 6 years?
Or even less than that, yeah.
Less than that?
Hey, maybe one of you guys knows. So he was talking about how they hayed the front and they had left it. Is the stuff that's
together,
Robert might know
drop
this
it
too.
down better.
Is the stuff where we were standing by the barn? Will that be hayed? And if that's different, completely different material.
Yeah. All the stuff on this side of that bridge is not.
It's not doing that. Okay.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is like native grasses.
Uh huh.
These like roots are like
can be 10 or 12 feet, whereas like a hay grass would just be like 6 inches. or
Gotcha.
something.
The nice thing about having Ryan in
Way
front
more
of us
robust.
is the rattlesnake.
Yes. Yes.
Just a tad. Because of the red stem.
That's not mint. That's like an alder.
What did you say it might be?
Well, let me see.
Are you a plant man?
To protect it from the deer.
I think they're trying to figure out what other
Yeah.
plant is it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, let's try Google. Oh, wait,
Is it like,
It might not be an alder.
shoot, what is that called?
Yeah, you guys can just
Up here?
Cool.
Okay. They're just old hornets. They're old hornets, like a. Oh, I thought it was like a nest for old hornets, like a tire, like a.
No.
I'm gonna go record it, Miguel, with your phone.
The main pools around these meander bends were excavated to about 8 feet deep, 8 to 10 feet. Over the years, there's been scour and sediment, so they've kind of fluctuated, but they should all be around 7 or 8 feet deep. Which beforehand, there were really no pools. It was all just a really shallow, continuous ripple.
I'm documenting for Miguel.
Oh, you want me to get closer so we can hear the water?
Yeah, I will. I will.
hole on Catherine Creek.
That's a good idea.
Well, you're going to go have lunch up at the state
Beautiful.
park.
Yeah.
And there's some gigantic boulders.
Oh, I just saw a fish jump.
Even with how low the river is right now?
Yeah, even with how low the river is.
So funny.
Is this the same type of plant that they were trying to identify over there?
No, I think it's
Different?
different.
Looks
The leaves
different,
look
huh?
different.
So this is they installed this. This is the restoration and salmon habitat. Right? I'm just sure yeah. I guess it's okay to walk on that stuff. I do it all the time. Oh.
I forgot. I got a question.
Oh.
What's the water right here for?
Complexity covered for
This is the river. This is the Catherine Creek.
Wow. Be careful. The dock is right. The thing in the bobber. Hi. Oh, hi, Erin. Hi. Oh, there's a tree over there. Oh, I want to get on that one. No. I got it.
Guess those are baby fishies. I don't know where this cuts off, just so you know.
Okay.
Like,
It's just a
careful.
risk.
Those are baby fish then? Maybe, or bugs?
These look like bugs, which are good food for baby
Mhm.
fish. Yeah, Madeline said she saw a little fish.
Yeah. But I was wondering if maybe that's what they were. Oh, somebody just lost it. They recovered. It'll just take them 3 years to restore the habitat after we've been here.
Right, that's right.
It looks really deep too. It's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know where it ends here, so just be careful.
I know like a girl from my hometown that likes the smell of.
As long as there's no ticks out here, we're golden. That's the thing. It's too.
I think it's too late
hot.
in
It's
the
been too
season,
hot.
but you know.
That's what I would
we'll
think
see.
too. But
I'll be the first one to figure it out.
Yeah, if you feel anything, the size of a grape attached to your skin, text me.
oof, oof.
Yeah, I think so. We're pretty late in the season.
Go this.
I'm just going further down the river.
Okay.
Creek. Don't ask me what the difference is between the river and the creek, though. Magnitude, yeah. What about stream? Yeah, it's not regional or.
So is it a pond and then a stream and then a lake and then a creek, or is it a creek then a
Pond would be more like lake.
Okay.
But yeah, stream, creek, river, maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look it up.
So I think they're just heading down the side of it. Farther.
Yeah. Miguel, do you want to follow the herd or wait for the herd to
'Cause
return
it is
to us?
Just more of the
He,
same.
we don't want to go this way. If we go this way, he said there's a wasp nest or
Oh,
detouring
I
around
don't
over there.
know.
More of these things are.
Oh, I can set the path or like stop. And, like, set a path.
Could you lie down and roll? Make it wider?
No, I can't. I don't mind my feet getting a little things on there, but like upper body, no. I wonder what these things are. They're like little like crackly balls.
Your name is Madeline too?
Yeah, Madeline or Maddie or Romella or whatever.
What do you want us to call you?
That's my last name.
Okay. Oh yeah, I heard you say you're Italian yesterday. I overheard that. Yeah.
I'm the most Italian out of all my siblings. I have the same parents for all of them, but I got the most Italian.
You got.
And I like to brag about it. And look the most too. Like if you were to.
You're proud of it though.
Yeah. Oh, I'm proud.
No.
I'm so proud.
I have my last name's Scariano, Sicilian, and I didn't find out until high school that my dad was adopted. And I had like this mini identity crisis when I had to come to terms with the fact that I was Sicilian. If that wasn't obvious at that point, right? You know, but.
I can see the red.
Yeah.
My dad has that too. He has like the
Really?
red.
Is he Italian on your dad's side or on both sides?
I'm Italian only on my dad's side, and I'm.
Do you know what part of Italy? Is it northern or? Okay.
He doesn't. I didn't learn that.
Sure.
Because my dad's dad, my grandpa, who's complete full Italian. He, like, he's from America. Like, he was born in America. It was my like great, like his grandparents, my grandpa's grandparents that were from Italy, I think. But my grandpa kind of just cut off. Like he didn't want to talk. Like he didn't talk to any of his relatives.
Sure.
Like I didn't even know he had siblings.
Sure.
Like he has siblings, and he just kind of didn't. I don't know why. He just didn't care.
So I got this for
I
a
don't know
competition.
much.
Yeah, there's maybe some.
The only stuff I know is from 23andMe.
Gotcha. You've done that though.
That's how I know.
That's cool.
That
That's
I'm
cool.
the
In July.
That's cool. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we all did
Interesting.
it. And so, like,
Interesting.
my sister's like 18%, and my brother's like 18%, and my little
And
sister's
so we had to
like
create like this new
15%,
innovation
and I got
technology through T-Mobile.
32.
It was pretty cool.
So,
Unfortunately, my team
Fascinating.
didn't
I
win,
don't
so
even
we
fully
showed up.
understand how that works. You know how siblings, full-blooded
you
siblings,
create-
can be 18,
Yeah,
and you know,
and,
but
like, they
I know
have
it's
that
possible, but
that would
my brother
have
has like the
artificial
most
intelligence.
Irish.
Okay.
Like where
So
my
you
mom's
clip it
Irish
anywhere,
and
and
my
it would
dad's
describe
Irish.
to you
'Cause
what's
my
around
grandma,
you.
my dad's mom is Irish
through like
and
5G
German.
LTE.
And
So it would get smarter as you would go, and then we were gonna add different features,
what was
like
funny,
for
though,
the
is
deaf
that German
community.
is showing up
They could
on,
sign
like,
to the
my
camera, and the
siblings
camera
and
can
I, but
auditorily
it's not showing up from
say
my grandma when she did it.
what
Like
would
the person
Interesting.
that we got it from,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not
What
showing
would
up.
be
So I guess
fine.
Weird.
it might be from a little bit. I think it's like
Same like
both.
if you were
I
at a
got it from
grocery
both
store,
sides, but
you were like in
you know, where
China,
we
and
got
it
it
would
was from is not showing up.
translate into
My
English.
grandpa
what
won't do it. He
the
won't
item
do it
was
because he's like,
on the-
I'm Italian.
so-
Like, he won't do it. That kind of sounded like a Russian accent, but so.
where were you? Where did you come
should
from?
we-
right
turn
before
and
here.
head back to the barn and assume that they're gonna
Okay.
connect
Are you
with us
transfer
over
student
there?
or
I don't know,
official?
'cause
Yeah.
I'm like-
I know there. I only asked because I knew
Yeah,
there was a couple.
we could.
couple.
I think the chances that they're coming back to where
Okay.
we are
Okay.
slim.
I don't know who
Yeah,
she
so
is, but
we might as well start making our way
almost
back
white
through the
hair,
grasslands.
so
Okay.
Turn around.
Okay. Okay.
I don't remember what she's wearing today.
Where in Washington? Okay, so that's wait, that's over on the west side, right? No, isn't that by Puget Sound?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the map right now in my
Uh-huh.
brain, and I think it's kind of, mostly. Yeah, because I had to go, because we had to go diagonal down. So it's still more middle than it is
Okay,
west.
it's on the other side of the Cascades, like over by like Ellensburg, or
2 hours from Ellensburg.
okay.
2 hours.
Do you have to go 2 hours north of Ellensburg? Okay.
Come down.
Uh huh.
Yeah, because we had to come down from that, and we stopped. My brother's in Ellensburg,
Uh huh.
so we came from.
I like Ellensburg.
Fenway, came down, stopped in Ellensburg, spent the night, and then came all the way down.
Gotcha.
Ellensburg's 4 hours from here.
Uh huh.
My brother's.
Why? What brought you? What made you decide to come to Eastern Oregon?
The first thing was wrestling.
Oh, are you wrestling?
Closest,
Are you wrestling? Cool.
Yeah, it's the closest women's wrestling, not club.
Mm-hmm.
All the other ones in Washington,
Yeah.
and all the other ones closer to Washington in Oregon are not, they're clubs.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a division, but it's a club.
Yeah. Totally.
So Eastern Oregon University is NAIA too, so they have more flexible funding. So
Uh-huh.
they can give you more money or less money, whatever they want to do.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't have to be just partial or full scholarships like Division 2 and 3.
Uh-huh.
And then I found out there was a lacrosse team too, and I was like, oh. my
There,
gosh,
yeah,
I gotta
there
do
is a
that.
lacrosse team. Is that happening? I don't know if they.
We don't have a coach yet,
That's
but
right.
we had a coach when I.
It's a fledgling program,
Yeah.
but it's in its early stages, you know.
Yeah, I think they started only a couple of years.
Yeah, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Something like that.
With your left foot. There you go. Yep, you're good.
Breakfast snack. That's what I like to call a continental breakfast right there.
Yeah, we're into the.
I'm gonna disagree with you.
Yeah, I know. What are you studying?
So it is policy, politics, and public administration.
Oh,
And I
wow.
slowly wanting to do like it's not physical education, but like sports stuff. Like I don't remember what it's called.
Getting into this, but it's made it even harder to see where the ground is uneven.
Yeah, like a. I don't know if it's not sports med, but like.
Is it in the healthcare field?
I haven't really looked into it.
Oh yeah.
I've been.
But you can tell you can feel yourself starting to change. Oh, you got a praying mantis on you, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
Come a little towards.
I know I don't want to hurt it. Okay, it's gone.
Okay.
It's gone.
You can walk forward.
That was cool. Yeah, they fly. A praying mantis.
Praying mantis. He's on your back.
It's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
What do those do?
Praying mantis. They what do they do? I mean, they eat their mates. I know that.
Okay, we're thumping it down.
And they're called praying mantises because when they're stationary, they look like they're praying the way they hold their front legs.
Their front legs are like kind of hooked together. But do they pollinate or do they just eat?
I don't know. That maybe they help control other pest species.
They do eat other things.
Yeah, I don't think that they're.
Alright, Sean, do you have a sense of which path we're taking back? Are we going between those two buildings? Well, it doesn't matter. Okay.
No, between the little two buildings, right? No? Oh, don't listen to me. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's past those two buildings. Okay. I would say and we're gonna get into the taller grass. Like that taller grass.
Yeah, it's still kind of squishy. We haven't lost an
Haven't fallen through yet.
The herd definitely canceled this, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how we just call them the herd. It's not like people anymore. We just call them, they're just the
The
herd.
prickly's on the.
The herd.
The herd doesn't chew any of the grass down as they go. Yeah. We're almost out of it.
If it helps, I'll start making like mooing noises and stuff. Moo. That's probably not helpful, huh? I don't know.
We're back into the shorter six now.
There's a little path. I'm gonna go back into it.
That dog.
He knows where he is.
not friendly.
So we are coming up back to where we started in front of the barn.
If you go to the edge of the barn, maybe we can hear where they're at.
Oh, I hear people.
I hear them.
Oh, they're behind
We got some folks coming back behind us.
Feed them.
Just a small group.
So now we're just in the gravel
Maybe they
part
get
where we started. I know. If there would be anything to get on my legs.
I regret that now. Totally do.
At least you have long socks. You're not
I got shorts on too, Miguel.
He started out with his short. I mean, if you put them all the way up, you'll pretty much cover.
I got my capris on. That's what I'm wearing.
Yep.
Well, in another week, I won't feel like I can wear them anymore because it'll all be
Cold.
business. I
Oh.
feel weird going to the classroom wearing
Just
shorts.
wear like dress shorts.
Yeah.
You know, it's a thing apparently.
Miguel, you want your phone back?
I mean, I suppose there's a boundary that you can cross that someone
Oh.
would know.
Would you like a
No.
phone back then?
Sure.